I believe you already look brighter. Folks, it's always interesting when we hear the stories that are told about people, when we listen to the stories that we tell about ourselves, about the pivotal events of our lives, the stories that people tell, the stories that we tell are very revealing about our attitude to life. I attended the celebration of life on Friday for Major General Herb Pitts, a man who was a lifetime in three divisions of the military, of the Army, and a long-time member of First Metropolitan Church. Now, when you want to hear stories about a person's life, go to their memorial service. Go to their celebration of life. He was eulogized by his family and by his church and by his military comrades. And they spoke of the outstanding contribution that he had made throughout his life to his fellow service personnel, to Scouts Canada, to church, and to all the organizations and groups that he belonged to. He was the stuff of legends. He was 24 when he won the Medal of Bravery in the Korean War. And people realized when they saw it that that's a medal that's awarded to those who, through bravery, save lives. It's not lightly given. He continued to save lives as an act of service throughout his life, as the people who had worked with him and under him testified to. He was humble, brilliant, and a man who cared about those he led. We all look back at our lives, don't we? At the pivotal moments, at the big stories that are part of our lives. And we tell how we reacted, what we learned from those events. But you know, our legacy is never fully understood until we're gone. And the stories that others tell lives on. Such is the story that we're looking at today from the Hebrew Scriptures. The story of the people's exodus from slavery into becoming a free people. That pivotal story has epic proportions in the history of the Hebrew people. We get to share it. There's many dimensions to this story. But one of the dimensions is that it is the story of unexpected kindness by the tyrant's daughter. We never know in our lives. And this epic story of the Exodus tells the people, you never know where kindness will come from. You cannot prejudge from whence their help comes and who will be an instrument of love and kindness. Do you hear in this story echoes of the parable of the Good Samaritan? Mary Oliver has a poem that speaks about kindness, and I really like it. It's called In the Storm. Some black ducks were shrugged up on the shore. It was snowing hard from the east, and the sea was in disorder. And then some sanderlings, 5 inches long, with beaks like wire, flew in with snowflakes on their backs, and they settled in a row behind the ducks, whose backs were also covered with snow. They settled so close, they were all but touching. They were all but under the roof of the ducks' tails. And so the wind pretty much blew over them. They stayed that way, motionless, for maybe an hour. And then the sanderlings, each a handful of feathers, shifted, and the wind caught them and they were blown away. Oh, out over the water, which was still raging. But somehow they came back. And again the ducks, like a feathered hedge, let them crouch there and live. If someone you don't know told you this, as I am telling you this, would you believe it? Belief isn't always easy, but this much I have learned, if not enough else, to live with my eyes open. I know that what everyone wants is a miracle. This wasn't a miracle, unless, of course, kindness, as now and again some rare person has suggested, is a miracle, as it surely is. Is the story of the Pharaoh's daughter's kindness a miracle? To be seen when eyes are open. We'll find out as the story unfolds. This story, which the Hebrew people will tell for centuries, is a story that is designed to cast out fear. There's ample evidence in this story to create a victim identity. But this story of the Exodus urges the people to develop an identity of resilience, of courage in the face of hardship. In the midst of the genocide that the story tells us about, the people still act to claim life. They don't curl up in fear or give up in discouragement. They're not paralyzed. They act with agency. They act with courage. Can you imagine what's going on inside Moses' mother when she sets her infant son adrift? Fear and love and desperation, and finally the courage to let go, to risk hope that in the letting go, his life will be spared. What are the stories you have in your life? Are they stories of resilience, of courage, of facing the adversities of life? How do you tell your stories? In the life of St. Aidan's, in this congregation, beloved congregation? What are our stories that we tell about ourselves? Are they stories of courage, of adversity overcome? What are the stories that give us life, that are our legacy in making? How do we acknowledge fear and love and desperation? And finally, the courage to risk, letting go in the hope of new life. Now, the rabbis who have studied this story for centuries, they've written books of midrash on it. They remark on the absence of God in the story of this portion of the exile, of the Exodus. They speculate on where God is in the midst of genocide, of Holocaust, in the midst of slavery and oppression. Where is God in this story of Moses? Why is God hiding? Why is God silent? And the rabbis speculate on this answer. Where is God? God is in the reeds and the water. God accompanies the vulnerable Moses as he floats into history. God is there not as a hero, but as an accompanier, steadfast, silent, watching. Where is God when you can't see the Holy One? Perhaps in the basket with the vulnerable. Perhaps in the church with the frightened ones looking for courage, watching, accompanying, seeing with open eyes the acts that will bring a new creation, that will result in life anew. May it be so. And thank you for listening.